everyone, and hope we have a wonderful time today understanding stigma and mental health. So, I'm going to share my slides with you. So, orientation to mental health and stigma. So, what it is telling us over here is people with mental illness and issues around mental illness, because it is invisible and because it has gained a bad repute, they always have a stigma that surrounds this. And it is very rarely that you find that people don't take help. So what is really happening? So if you can see this slide, it's showing you an iceberg, and what we really see of people is less than 1/20th of who the person is actually, is, and what they're going through is all below the surface. So this is a great analogy that you can understand that a lot of times it is not easy for people to really speak and say what they're feeling, be it depression, be it anxiety, be it panic. It's not considered an illness. It People don't feel that they need to get help for that, and but actually it impacts on their life very, very strongly. So it is easy to ignore because no one else needs to know. So mental illness can be invisible. For instance, you can have anxiety but still sound different or confident. You can have depression, but you can still smile and make jokes. You can feel suicidal, but you still turn up to work every day and appear fine. So one's inside world or the inner world is not equal to their outer world. People usually wear masks, and it is very important that when there is a face off, it's usually with a good friend. And I'm going to come back to that about why we need to have friendships and connections with people that we can really trust. So over here, okay, we may see but not understand, we may hear but not listen, we may feel but do not know how to deal with mental illness, because the wounds are very, very invisible, and not every disability is visible. So with mental illness over here, okay, the war in Syria, what is happening to these children is so, for a psychologist, for a counselor, for anyone who deals with psychology knows that they are going to be having this deep impact of PTSD, of all kinds of issues going on within them. So when they grow up, because this is an invisible crisis, but we are going to have to deal with that as they grow up, even whilst they're growing up. So what is the future for these war-torn kids? Okay. And here are some statistics to help you understand what I'm really explaining. So some reason for people not asking for help. Okay, so the medications that might help have too many side effects. So 45% of the people do not take their medications, do not want to take medications, they are afraid of medications, and they're not consistent. So what happens is they then have drastic side effects also, as well as when they don't take it, the mental health issues crop up again. A lot of people, 44%, say it could harm their career. If people knew that they had mental illness issues, they think that it's going to harm their career. For instance, if anyone has a mental health record, okay, very often they do not get a job in the police or the army or government organizations that require alertness or security and things like that. So it does in a way impact the career. 44 again percent feel I could be denied a security clearance, because that again goes against your record. Like if you had cancer, nobody would bat an eyelid to take you in any career. But if you have mental illness, that poses a huge risk. 39% say my family or friends would be more helpful than a mental health professional because what do others know? So they feel that they can manage around the family or friends. However, not everyone is equipped how to handle a mental illness. And so it is impacting even on the family members. Also, 38% go, my co-workers would have less confidence in me if they found out. So these and a lot of other reasons are, there which avoid or stop a person from seeking mental health and really helping themselves. So this is something to be considered. Also, sometimes it's really confusing. I mean, even it was for me when I first started learning about mental health and, did my diploma and stuff. So it is, like for instance, flashbacks and nightmares. Okay. I had to deal with a lot of people who were from the war and they would not be able to sleep. There was a man from Vietnam who couldn't sleep for 17 years because he had constant nightmares and he was hyper vigilant and had flashbacks from the war times and he hadn't slept in the night for 17 years, right? And you can't keep taking medication for what has happened to you in the war. That needs to be dealt with by very specialist interventions for mental health like EMDR and very, very specialist trauma interventions. Okay, people who have anxiety, some of them can't even go on a plane because they're so anxious. And that needs to be dealt with again with psychotherapy, psychology, counseling, or some have chronic fatigue and anger issues. Now, anger is considered a secondary emotion because what is underlying the anger needs to be treated so that the person is angry no more. Or personality changes, depression. A lot of people who have depression are actually very functional, but they are sinking inside and there are sleep problems they're having. And so medication can help the symptoms for a while, but doesn't take away those issues that are actually the core reason for them to have headaches or feel dizzy or have vision problems or pain and adjustment. So there's so much of confusion, and there is only one thing that people feel that okay, medication, however, they can be cured. Anxiety can be cured. Flashbacks and nightmares and hypervigilance and invisible traumatic brain injury when they have had an accident, okay, that also can be cured through somatic techniques. So yes, we teach all of that in the Diploma of Mental Health, and that's an amazing tool that people can imbibe when you do the Diploma of Mental Health. Okay, so alarming statistics, and yet not all people are treated. For instance, 1 in 4 people are actually affected by mental illness. 8.6 million adults have suicidal thoughts. Okay, suicide is the third leading cause of death in the world. And 1 in 30 experience post-traumatic stress disorders. So all of these, and children with anxiety disorders are less likely to receive treatment because they cannot express themselves and they don't know it's an illness. So people of color have less access to care. So there's the racist, attitude that people are still having to combat and deal with. So is this time for us to ring and bring in some changes? We can all make a difference, actually. All we need to do is brace ourselves with learning about this. And today at IHNA, mental health is, going to be launched on the 3rd of May. And I would really highly recommend for people to do the course, because not only are they helping themselves, but they're becoming ambassadors for good health, actually. And it just makes a huge difference understanding mental disorders are not adjectives. Like you can't say, oh, you look so anorexic, or you can't say you're, she's so bipolar. Well, these are not adjectives. They are concerns. They are actual illnesses that need to be treated. And therefore, nationwide, about 1 in 15 adults experience a major depressive episode within the past year. So it could be anyone amongst us. And therefore, we have to be aware that suicide is one of the leading causes of death in both men and women from adolescence to middle age. And there are, again, the house of that racism built. Okay, today, much that we don't see it, but there's a lot of racism happening in institutions, in offices, in cultures, and individual discrimination. There's so many things that we don't understand, we don't see, and we don't get. So we have to learn about these things. So one of the few tips that could help is your loved one's mental illness is not your fault, and it's not their fault either. So we can't blame somebody who has anxiety and say, oh, stop it, stop, behaving like you don't know how to do these things. Well, it's an actually serious problem, because I knew a person who could never take a flight, and the whole family suffered because he would cancel the flights at the last minute. But it's a huge problem for somebody who's having panic disorders, and how they can be treated is very important. They are not making it up or lazy or attention seeking. It's an illness, it's not a choice. Refusing to acknowledge or talk about your loved one's illness won't make it go away. So you can't hide these things, because it doesn't go away if you think that you can put it inside a room and let it be there. No, it'll stay there. You can't fix it. Just be there. Don't push advice, especially if they haven't asked for it. And you can't give a person with mental illness advice. They need treatment. In general, don't push. When your loved one is ready, they will make steps to get better. Understand what works for one person may not work for another. So each one's case is different. Each one's therapy is different. Also, if you have researched their illness, understand that everyone is different. Your loved one will have their own set of symptoms and experiences. Not everyone with a mental illness are suicidal or wanting to self-harm. So yeah, there are different types. Yeah, not everyone starts committing suicide. So that's something we all need to understand. Also, asking your loved ones if they are struggling with suicidal thoughts and making sure they're safe. That's our duty of care towards them. Recovery takes time. Okay, no quick fixes for this one. Okay, and also strengthening communities, uh, increasing social inclusion and participation. So let's see if we can tackle racism, improve our environments, and stop the bullying that happens at workplaces, in communities, and childcare. And basically, I just want to say you are not a victim, just a fighter with scars that few can understand. So talk to someone, get help. You are not alone.